Hello, everyone, and welcome into Texans Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and on today's show, I'm going to be answering all of your questions from our community tab on a Texans Today mailbag. And you're like, Jeremy, how do I get on one of these mailbags? Well, it's very simple. I'm going to give you an opportunity to get on our next mailbag next week. All you got to do is go down in the comment section and use the hashtag Texans in your comment. I'm going to pull the best ones for our mailbag next week. I want to kind of continue to do this because I want to get y'all a little bit more involved in the show, hear what y'all have to say, because your word is just as important as mine. It's chat sports, not Jeremy sports. So get down in the comment section. Any question you have around the Texans, or it could be around the NFL, go down right now in the comment section and drop your question using the hashtag Texans in your comment. Well, the first one for today comes from Grapha0713. It says, number one, main priority, offense or defense? Hashtag Texans. Well, for me, I'm going to say probably on the defensive side of the football. If you were twisting my arm and said, hey, you can only improve one this offseason, because the Texans' run defense needs some help badly. Now, don't get me wrong, the Texans' running attack on the offensive side of the football could use some help as well, but you have C.J. Stroud. You have the franchise quarterback. So, in my eyes, you're almost not perfect on offense, but you're more set up for success on offense when you have a great quarterback. On defense, it's more of the totality of the unit. You really need to round out that pair. You have some good, cornerstones. You have Will Anderson at the defensive end edge rusher spot. You have Derek Stingley there at the corner. So, you need to continue to add this offseason. So, Grapha, if you were really pulling my arm, if you said you could only improve one this offseason, give me defense, because C.J. Stroud with an elite defense, I think this Texans team can really contend in the AFC. Thank you for the question, Grapha. Next one up, Brett said, should Houston sign Mike Evans or Tee Higgins in NFL free agency? Well, this is a really good question, because both these guys are on the Texans' radar going into free agency, because word is they are trying to add another elite receiver to go alongside Nico Collins and Tank Dell. And these two guys are definitely the two top options this year in free agency. As we look at their stats over the past couple of seasons, first, let's look at Mike Evans. Last 4 seasons, the guy doesn't age. Over 1,000 yards in every single season, and multiple years, over 13 touchdowns. This guy is an absolute beast. And not to mention, he was born and raised in Houston, a little bit south of Houston, in Galveston. But, he also played his ball in College Station. So the dude is from the Houston area. He could come home and play for the hometown team, the Houston Texans. I would absolutely love to see Mike Evans in the red and blue this next season. Great job in his career. No doubt Hall of Famer with the Tampa Bay Bucks, if you ask me, and Mike Evans. And then you go to Tee Higgins, who's a little bit on the younger side, just getting off of his first rookie contract. Tee Higgins could be another option for the Houston Texans, and he's played very well. Dealt with some injuries this past year, but the promise is there. Over 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons in 2021 and 2022. This past year, only played 12 games, but still over 650 yards, 5 touchdowns. A really good complimentary piece up there in Cincinnati with Jamar Chase. Could he be somewhat of the same for the Houston Texans alongside Nico Collins and Tank Dell? I don't really think there's a wrong answer to this question I'm about to ask you, but I want to see where you're kind of headed with this. Do you want Mike Evans? Type ME. If you want Tee Higgins? Type TH. If you're in the room, Nick Caserio, during free agency, and he said, hey, we can only sign one of these guys. Who do we sign? Mike Evans or Tee Higgins? Give him an answer down in the comment section. Type ME for Mike Evans or TH for Tee Higgins. Next question on today's Texans mailbag, Joseph Garcia. Can C.J. Stroud win MVP next season if we sign Mike Evans / other free agents? Good question. Good question. I definitely think so, because C.J. Stroud, up until his injury against the New York Jets, was in the MVP conversation. That's how well he was playing this season. And I've kind of showed you his stats over the past couple weeks on what he's done throughout the 2023 NFL season. So I kind of wanted to show a deeper dive into his stats. These are some advanced analytics per PFF, and I'm going to let you know what each of these jumbled up words mean. ADJ percentage. That's adjusted completion percentage of 73.9. That means balls that should have been completed, maybe drops or, penalties whatsoever, almost 74%. Great job by CJ Stroud. Turnover worthy plays percentage. Those are the amount of plays that he had that could have resulted in turnovers. Even if they didn't, it was only at 2.9, which is still very, very good. ADOT, which is the average depth of target. That means whenever he throws the ball, it went an average of 9.4 yards, which in the NFL is pretty good. He's not just dinking and dunking around. BTT percentage. That's big time throw percentage, which means the amount of times that it looked like a play wasn't going to be able to be made, and CJ Stroud just made a big time throw. 4.3% of the time, CJ Stroud made an incredible play to get a completion. And then this is the part where CJ Stroud really needs to improve this next year. P2S percentage. That's pressure to sack percentage. That means on the amount of pressures that CJ Stroud gets, 19.6% of the time he ends up getting sacked. And if we compare him to somebody who has won MVPs, who is an MVP candidate for years to come in Patrick Mahomes, these are kind of this. I went ahead and gave the same exact metrics for Patrick Mahomes. And you see adjusted completion percentage a little bit higher than CJ Stroud. Turnover worthy plays about the same. An ADOT a little bit lower. Big time throw percentage around the same, but we look at the pressure to sack percentage. Significantly lower than CJ Stroud. So I think obviously CJ Stroud's a rookie. He has a lot of growing to do in the NFL still. Even though he showed a ton of promise in his rookie season, I still think CJ Stroud has some work to do this offseason. And that's why I was over the moon whenever the Texans were able to keep not only Bobby Slowick, but quarterback coach Gerard Johnson to help continue the evolution of CJ Stroud throughout his NFL career. Because I think, pre-snap, identifying the blitz, making sure he has hot routes that he can let go with the ball and not get hit, not get sacked on plays is going to be a huge, huge step for CJ Stroud and his maturation in the NFL and how he can be one day an MVP of the National Football League. So I think if he takes those steps, plus you add a couple more players, maybe like a Mike Evans this offseason, I could 100% see CJ Stroud, become the NFL MVP. Now, we have a couple more questions on today's show, but first, I couldn't do this show if it wasn't for our sponsor, which is Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. All you got to do is pick two or more players, choose more or less on their projected stat types, and place your entry. It's that easy. And if you're like, hey, give me an example. Well, here's one right here. For the big game, you can use my picks. They're giving you a freebie. Patrick Mahomes, more than 0.5 pass yards. I mean, that is a gimme if I've ever seen it. So really, you only need to get two of them right. And here are my other two. Isaiah Pacheco, more than 0.5 passing or receiving touchdowns. He scored in his last 6 games. I think he scores in the big game as well. And Christian McCaffrey, more than 35.5 receiving yards. He is a threat out of the backfield, running and receiving. So I think that could be a good play as well. Use my picks, or hey, you could even fade my picks. Just do it over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS, first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Astronomical has this question coming in. Do you have any details on the new Texans jerseys coming out? From what I've read, sorry, that just totally got me messed up. From what I've read and heard is that we will be adding the Bulls horns to the new look and having a jersey with only H-Town blue Oilers colors. Also, they will be coming out in April before the draft. What else can you add to this? #Texans. Now, I'm not able to give you anything that the Texans have drawn up. They have that under lock and key. I don't know what the new jerseys are going to look like. But I think it's always fun to kind of see the different concepts that we've seen online through Reddit, through other, media channels on guys who kind of showed what the jerseys could look like. So I pulled 3 from the internet that I thought were kind of interesting. Here's the first one. Kind of like you mentioned, the Texans or the Houston colors of the old Oilers, like powder blues. you have the horns on the helmets right there. I think these ones are kind of icy. I like these. I thought these were pretty dope. Another one is this option where I was talking with producer Tex before today's show, and he was kind of mentioning the Texans would get a ton of flack if they used this jersey with the star on the side with the Cowboys, kind of strengthening that rivalry between Houston and Dallas once again. I don't mind these jerseys. I think they're okay, but I would want something, even though this isn't my favorite, something a little bit more like this next one where you do have, I really like the white helmet. Maybe not the two different color horns, but I really think a white helmet, white face mask would look dope. Maybe incorporate the horns on the front. I think it would look cool for the Houston Texans to do something like this. Maybe a concept, something like this. So I want to know from you, are you excited for the new Texans jerseys coming out? Maybe the alternates, whatever they come out with this offseason, because word is they're going to be changing some stuff up. I know a lot of people love the Texans jerseys how they are right now. I personally love the Battle Reds, and honestly, my favorite jersey combination from this past season was our Color Rush Blue, where it's the blue jersey with the red numbers, and then the red helmet with that, where it was all blue, and then the red helmets. I thought those were my favorite jersey combinations, even more than the Battle Red, but I'm still excited to see what they have coming out. I don't know if it'll be the powder blues or like the Oiler colors from before, because I know the NFL already put a cease and desist on the University of Houston for kind of using that design, using that idea. So I'm kind of interested to see what the Texans have in store. Let me know if you're excited down in the comment section. Cam Productions, what big offseason moves do the Texans need to make to get back to the playoffs? They need to get a top defensive tackle on this team. I'm telling you that right now. I think, first of all, you need to get a top defensive tackle, whether that be in free agency or the draft. There's a lot of good options out there. Now, some of these guys could be franchise tag, but you're looking at like Chris Jones, Leonard Williams, Justin Matabuke. All those guys could hit free agency, and if they do, the Texans have the cap space to go out and sign one of them. Even former Texan DJ Reader from the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Texans need a defensive tackle. Even if they bring back Sheldon Rankins, which he played well this past season, you need a top guy in the middle who can stop the run. Sheldon Rankins, more of a pass rusher in my opinion. You need a big body, or you might draft somebody in the first round, maybe like a Jerzon Newton or it's a Vondre Sweat. I also think they need to re-sign Jonathan Grenard. I really like the idea of keeping him with Will Anderson, having that young pass rush duo, and I think you need to also possibly go out and, well, first of all, fortify the offensive line. Like, you got to win in the trenches, but also get another weapon for C.J. Stroud. I really think, especially, if we're able to get one of these dynamic running backs in the draft or free agency, like I know everybody is really pumped at the idea of getting a Saquon Barkley, of the idea of getting a Derrick Henry, or maybe, one of those free agent running backs that are out there, a DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs, one of these guys. So if the Texans can, spend their money wisely, get guys that can really make impacts, I think D-line, I think O-line, I really would like some weapons on offense. And then in the secondary, fortify that unit. You have the pieces there. Jalen Petrie had a down year, but I really do still believe in Jalen Petrie to be a good safety in this league. Derek Stingley, I trust as my CB1. Get him a CB2 that's right along with him. I think the Texans will be in good shape going into next season. Dark Tooth. Will we see all the sold-out games at NRG actually near capacity now? I feel the city's paying for real, but our young core and the whole franchise needs that place effing rocking every home game, bringing the Bulls on parade back. I completely agree with you, Dark Tooth. I think what this past season has done, and we've already seen it. I'm in a couple Texans groups on Facebook and on a couple different social media apps, and a lot of people are saying, hey, I'm noticing my season tickets are getting a little bit more expensive. I'm noticing that tickets aren't dirt cheap anymore. Well, that's because the excitement's there. Houston is one of the largest markets in the entire NFL, in the entire United States of America. Houston is one of the biggest cities out there. And with DeMeco Ryans and with this young core, what they've meant to not only this franchise, but to this city, bringing back a little bit of respect into Houston sports, I think, the support's going to be there next season. especially if they get out to a hot start, especially if C.J. Stroud keeps on cooking. I think you'll see this Texans franchise back to the days whenever we had J.J. Watt and back to the days whenever we were contending in the AFC and a lot of teams were scared of the Texans. People forget, before these past 2 seasons, whenever they were not good, the Texans, they were one of the best teams in the AFC South over the past decade. They won multiple AFC South titles in a row. So I think if the Texans can get back on that train, get back to competing in the AFC, you'll see those season tickets go maybe a little more expensive, but you'll see the stadium fold up, not with the opposing fans, but with Texans fans. Bulls on parade, we got to bring it back. We got to bring this team back. We got to bring respect to the city back, and we got to bring that Texans swagger back. And I'm just glad DeMeco Ryans and company has done that for this team. Now, that's all I have for you on today's Texans mailbag. As always, give me a follow on Twitter at Jeremy Chugs. If you have any more questions, if you just want to hit me up, follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Chugs. You can tweet at me, DM me. Let me know what you're thinking around the Houston Texans or around the NFL. And as always, go down and hit that sub button. We had a record month in January. Can we keep that train rolling? Can we keep it going into February? Because I want to do more live shows. I want to do more shows for y'all. And with NFL free agency, with the NFL draft coming up, I want to show my boss to say, hey, Texans fans, we're here to stay. This channel is legit. Texans fans are legit. And bring some, kind of like that last question from Darktooth, bring some respect back to this Texans fan base. So if you are a Houston Texans fan and you love this team, go down and hit that sub button for free Texans videos every single day.